Welcome back to another Haven't Read It video. I'm coming back with consistent videos from now on. I'm out of Atlanta and living in St. Augustine now. I've definitely been a slacker. Our first story of the day. A classmate was tricked by a fake letter after he took advantage of us. This is a very old revenge story from when I was a teenager in the 1990s. There were only a few personal computer gamers around at the time. And without the internet, it was hard to get hold of new games. My friend and I bought games from abroad via airmail because local stores didn't sell many, but these weren't cheap. We'd trade them with each other and would copy the copy protection features, which were often included, so this made it somewhat affordable for us. A new kid joined our class, however, and his uncle had a great many games we didn't have. We offered to trade games with him and gave him our original copies for him to copy. In return, we got corrupted floppies. Yes, this was the 90s, missing copy protection, and so on. After a few months of this, we received not a single working game, while he had received all of our games, such as the Settlers, Doom 2, and Monkey Island games, and some he returned in less than nice condition. We had had enough, and we wanted to get revenge, but we didn't know how. Now, the 90s were known for the many AIDS campaigns after Freddie Mercury died of AIDS in 1991. I was a huge fan of Queen, and this new so-called friend would often mock me for liking a singer who he called gay. He came from a very conservative family, and his mother was quite Catholic. This is what gave us an idea when we had to attend an AIDS event organized by a certain foundation with our class. At the end, we were given flyers about AIDS, homosexuality, and so on, and free condoms with the logo of the AIDS Foundation were available. We each grabbed a few for reasons which will become clear shortly. My friend and I were one of the very few with a computer and inkjet printer at home, so we got this idea to play a serious trick on him. We created a fake letter addressed to our so-called friend, pretending we were the AIDS Foundation, copying the logo and everything to make it look as authentic as possible. It went something like this. Dear first name, thank you for your letter. We understand it's difficult being open about being homosexual, and you have many questions after the event you attended with your class. Please find enclosed a flyer which should answer many of your questions, as well as some condoms. Please practice safe sex at all times. We enclosed all the flyers we had gotten at the event, as well as the condoms, and mailed it to Mr. Last Name, to guarantee his father would open the letter first. We had no idea the huge commotion this would create. We knew that, given his homophobia, this would be great revenge. But apparently, his mother had been in tears, screaming. His father was angry, and he was grounded for weeks, with his parents convinced he was gay. In the end, he figured we had something to do with it, because we had been carefully and subtly trying to find out if our trick had succeeded. But at first he thought the letter was authentic, and that we had contacted the foundation in his name. When we finally confessed we had faked it all, we had a trip to the principal's office to explain why we had done this, with his parents present. It's still the best revenge I ever took in my life, even though it was 30 years ago. Top comments. Doom 2 took me back years. And excitement when Duke Nukem came out. Someone responds, I had a lot of the classics of the time. Duke Nukem 3D, Doom 2, SimCity 2000. A lot of LucasArts games, TIE Fighter, Dark Forces, Sam & Max, Full Throttle, etc. It was a fun but expensive hobby, and all my allowance went towards buying them. In those days, games still came on floppies, or were small enough to be copied to share with friends. Someone else responds, back when I was ecstatic that my modem connected at 14.4 kilobytes instead of 9600 to play death matches with my classmates. Next hot comment, we had a chap in our office who was just like that back in the 90s. He was also very aware of the fact that he might be pranked by the rest of us and was very careful. Lots of attempts to prank him failed. Then the government brought in the poll tax, and this chap was one of those who refused to pay. This was our opportunity. We created a letter to him using a company letterhead and addressed it to him as being from HR, and we used his own telephone extension as the contact number. Our extensions had a direct dial number, and this was what we put on the letter. The content of the letter was that the local authority had applied for an attachment order for his earnings as he refused to pay his poll tax. It went on to say that the full arrears and associated costs would be deducted directly from his salary. It was then sent to him via the internal mail. Once he opened the letter, he exploded, shouting that he couldn't do that and immediately calling the number on the letter. Of course, as it was his own extension, all he got was an engaged tone. It took him several hours to figure out that he was calling his own extension. It was the most satisfying revenge. Someone else replies, in the mid-80s, laser printers were just catching on. Anything printed by them carried authority. We had a DEC model at work. We pranked a coworker with it. We had an all-office meeting involving travel to the vendor. I took letterhead and envelopes from the hotel we stayed at. A few days after returning, he got an official-looking letter from the hotel's GM, asking him to please return the towels, sheets, pillows, and housekeeper from his room. The letter said Easy Donna had done this before, but they needed her back as they had rooms to clean. His wife thought it was hilarious. The office enjoyed his search for the culprit. He never figured out who set him up. And I learned a local postmark is a dead giveaway. Next story. AITAH for letting my son draw naked men and women. My 41 female son, 15 male, had started drawing for a school project, and we have come to discover he is very good at it, so he has started to draw in his free time. He has even joined the art club at his school. He likes to draw people a lot, and he has recently started to look into human anatomy, so he started drawing naked women and men to see how both bodies work. My mother-in-law had recently come to visit. She is a very strict Christian and is very nosy, especially when it comes to my son. She wants to make sure he doesn't get in that devil stuff. Devil stuff being turning gay. My husband is totally okay with this, which we have had tons of fights about it. So today before dinner, my mother-in-law found my son's sketchbook with the human anatomy, and she flipped. She ripped the notebook, yelled at me and my son, and scolded my husband. When she was done, I sent my son to his room and simply asked her, "Why were you in my son's room?" She had no words. My husband told me not to be rude, while my mother-in-law started to cry. She yelled at my husband to take her home, and they left. At this moment, they are still gone, and my son is crying in his room. My husband just texted me, "You could at least made him hide the drawings." I haven't answered. I know I came on as the asshole, but I'm also kind of asking for advice. What should I do? I feel like this comment sums up all of our feelings. NTA. Putting a sketchbook in his room should have been enough. What's he supposed to do? Bury it in the backyard until grandma's gone? Any good artist studies their subject. And if your son likes to draw people, then so be it. Someday he could be an animator or something, and they have to know a lot about body shapes and how they move. Your mother-in-law is totally the a-hole. Not only for snooping, but for then taking it out of context and hurting your son's feelings. And your husband siding with her makes him a little bit of an a-hole too. Makes him a lot of an a-hole. Someone responds, right? She went full drama over a sketchbook. Not a secret diary. Maybe she should try to mind her own business instead of policing harmless art. Someone else says, as much of a bitch as the mother-in-law is, OP has a husband problem, not a mother-in-law problem. What kind of POS lets his mom treat his kid like that? Someone else says, and ripping it. Telling her she isn't welcome back until she learns some respect. NTA hard. My brother did nudes in high school and college. Catholic family, and it wasn't a problem. He also had art books with nude females. I'm so tired of people being hung up on nudity. Final story. AITAH for threatening to quit my job if my dad continues what he's doing. For some background, I, 16-year-old female, have lived with my dad, 64-year-old male, for about a year now. My parents are divorced, and I am not close with my mother. I'm going into my senior year. I'm graduating a year early, and start school again in a week or so. Last year in November, I began working at a restaurant as a hostess to save up for a car. I take the bus to and from school, as well as to work, and a car would save me a lot of time. I make minimum wage, and I pull in a little over $1,000 a month after taxes. I put about 60 to 70% of that into savings, and spend the rest on various things like going out with friends or Funko Pops. In February of this year, my dad told me since I was making so much money, I needed to start contributing to the household. At first, this was fine. He asked that I pay for my phone bill and utilities. We rent from a family member, so utilities are discounted, and my phone bill isn't too expensive either. Both things are about $200. With this, I was saving less, so I still had spending money, but still had set aside $400 to $500 every month for the car. In July, he decided I needed to pay a portion of the rent. I tried to argue with him on that, but he threatened to close my account, which he can do because he opened it for me. I had to start giving him $500 on top of the $200 a month, totaling $700 a month. With the $300 I had left, I saved $200 for the car and kept $100. I was pretty fed up at this point, but it gets worse. I have some cash in a jar in my room in case I go do something that you can't use a card for. I had about $300 in the jar from several months. Last week I came home from work and the jar is empty. When I asked my dad, he said that since I'm his daughter, he's entitled to the money I make. I was furious. I told him he had to give it back, but he had already spent it on some BS Amazon purchases. Lucky me. He told me he wanted $100 extra a month because I shouldn't have that much money just for me. So after all this, I'm only pulling in $200 a month. That's if I don't save any. Last night I told my dad I was going to give my 2 weeks notice. I work hard and I'm exhausted. It isn't worth the few $100s I get. He was absolutely furious and said that I owe it to him to contribute to the household. I go to work in a few hours and I'm planning on letting them know I won't be continuing. So AITAH, TLDR. My dad takes the majority of my salary for himself, and working is no longer worth it, so I'm quitting my job. Top comment says, I'm not sure where you live, but your parents are legally required to provide food and shelter to you while you are a minor. These things are not your responsibility if he is your guardian, and he is not allowed to exploit you like this. Do you have other relatives you can live with? This is abuse, plain and simple. Came here to say this. Talk to a counselor or some trusted adult. And if you are in the US, sounds like you are a minor until you turn 18, not graduate high school. Final comment says, NTA, you are absolutely not the a-hole here. Your dad is financially abusing you. You're 16, a full-time student, and working to save for a car, not to support an adult man who should already have the means to take care of rent and utilities on his own. So true. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for our next video. See ya.